I'm Ollie Hall-Green, and I'm the founder and host of Shapes of Resilience. In this podcast, we explore the raw, unfiltered stories of those who refused to give up, turning adversity into strength, setbacks into lessons, and pain into purpose. Through these inspiring stories, we can learn and find resilience in our own lives every single day, because true growth isn't found in comfort. This podcast discusses sensitive topics including trauma, suicide, loss, mental health, and illnesses. Some conversations may be distressing, so please take care whilst listening. So welcome to the show. So today I'm joined by Laura Ox, also known as Mama Zion. So today we're diving deep into what it really means to shift and pivot into a life of alignment, not as a concept, but as a lived experience. And to guide us through that journey, joined by Laura, a holistic healing mentor and mindset coach who helps women realign with their inner truth, reconnect with nature, and reclaim their well-being from the inside out. In this episode, we explore the subtle signs you're not in alignment, the quiet friction, the emotional heaviness, the sense that life looks fine on paper but doesn't feel right in your body. Shares the courage it takes to choose change, the honest fear that rises, and the tricky space known as the beta paradox, when life isn't bad enough to force a shift, yet not true enough to sustain your spirit. We'll talk about the resilience of people who rebuild from the ground up, and how alignment often brings the moment you decide you deserve more than almost happy. Together we explore living in harmony with nature, prioritizing holistic health, and remembering that water is life, the symbol of clarity, flow, and the essence of healing. So let's get into it.
I love it.
So first and foremost, thank you again for joining me.
Oh, thank
I know
you.
we both know very little about each other. We connected on Instagram, I believe, through a post I put on when I shared some stuff around Jade Horton's story,
Yeah.
who I believe is someone you've connected with also. And this is what keeps happening with me in this podcast, is I move into alignment with people that I connect with naturally and organically. And then through that, each time I post, I maybe get 2 or 3 new followers. And it's like that early appreciation. I think, yeah, they're doing some things that I'm really interested in. I can learn from that person. I like what they're doing. They clearly live a life that is like their truth. So I'm just going to invite them to come on the podcast, and I can learn about them and their story at the same time as the listener. I think it's just quite cool.
Oh, well, I mean, that's the power of social media. That's the power of online, and people have this tendency to demonize social media, but only because actually most people aren't using it the right way. But when you actually use it to share your voice and to share your story, the beautiful thing that happens is that you end up, connecting with people who resonate with your message, resonate with your story, and you end up building these incredible friendships, business partnerships with people who are in alignment with what you were talking about. And I think for me, for many years, I felt very lonely. I always kind of thought that, I don't think like everyone else. I don't want to live like everyone else. And I was always trying to fit in the box. And the reality is I just hadn't met my people, and I hadn't met my people because I wasn't sharing the true version of me. And social media, for me, that's been hugely healing, is that it's enabled me to express myself in the most authentic way and connect with other people. And as a result, I realized that I'm not lonely at all. There are thousands and thousands of other people out there who resonate with what I share and, can take inspiration from it, and I can help them. It's fantastic. So, all those that demonize social media, generally, I think it's because they're not using it in the right way. So I resonate with that.
I love that concept as well, and one of my friends I interacted with right back at the start of my journey, he gave me this concept which stuck with me, where if we're all on a ladder with one hand facing up and one hand facing down, then at the time when you need support from someone, as long as the person you're looking for support from has also got their hand facing down, then they're there to help you. But it doesn't work. You then stop thinking about people you can help by keeping your hand facing down. So it's like we're all just looking at the people that can help us in those moments, and lo and behold, they kind of just come through at that exact moment you need them without realizing it was always meant to happen in that way. But it's because you're living in alignment.
Absolutely.
And you're open to support, but you're also always looking to support others. And I feel like Instagram in particular is very good for that.
Mhm.
If you right places, and again, if you only post stuff that is actually how you feel and what you think.
Yeah, no, social media is super powerful for that. The power of building an online business and sharing your truth, sharing your message and connecting with individuals. And the great thing is, you expand your outreach, right? Because what we do is we live in silos, our little lives, wherever we are, in our village, in our town, in our city. But this actually opens up the entire world, right? So I connect with people in the US, in Australia, all over Europe, and that's beautiful. There's this incredible global network of support, but also inspiration. I mean, for me, it's been a massive game changer. Social media, using social media in that way, because before I was using it to consume, it was more of a distraction and something that I was using to numb my pains or ignore my own. I was always looking at all these people and I was like, wow, I wish I had this strength to, show myself as I am or share my story. I was in awe of it, and then I never thought I could do it. And then here I am.
I've got a question. I think I know the answer. So, would you rather find the magic trick and put out this viral video and pick up 100,000 followers, but they're not your people, or just stay true to yourself and organically just pick up the right people along the way, but have a much lower reach?
I mean, I'm not, I'm not obsessed with the reach. It's like I post my message. It's my truth. And I quite like it actually if I post something which is a bit controversial. And then, this has happened to me a couple of times, or I post something and then I get so much hate under a post and I get 150 people leaving my page. And I'm like, well, do you know what? That's good, right? It's just clearing the energy, and the people that aren't resonating with me are never going to do business with me. I'm not going to be able to help them. But then I also think sometimes when you post something which is like a little bit controversial, even if that's your truth, you're planting seeds. I very much see my role as somebody like a gardener. I'm constantly planting seeds. And so somebody might hate me for saying something or sharing my truth, but that might trigger further reflection in them and they might come back. So that's how I look at things. So I'm not so bothered about, how many followers or how many people. I was talking to you earlier. I think it's so important to detach yourself from the outcome. And I think the most important thing is to stay true to yourself and share your truth. And if it displeases, well, it's okay. You will find there will be people out there who resonate with with whatever you have to say. And it took me a while, in the beginning when I started my journey with social media, I was always trying to be very polite and very polished and trying to say the right thing. And, you know, um, and that resulted in actually my process fast accelerated once I stopped doing that. Once I stopped being more intuitive, more authentic, actually my outreach increased at that point when I was trying to be very polite and polished and trying to say the right thing as opposed to what I really felt. My engagement wasn't growing that much. And I think it's very much because people resonate with your energy and your authenticity and your message.
So yeah, and you've got a great following. You have got a great following. But what was the turning point in the way that you showed up one day and said, "No, I'm going to stop showing up as that person. I'm now ready to step into the person I believe in"?
I don't think there was like a particular moment where I think it was a natural shift for me as, in alignment, like according to my own healing journey, when I was feeling more free to be myself, when, as I was moving forward on my healing journey, naturally, I started sharing more about my life, more about what I thought. So I can't say that there was a shift, but there was definitely a shift about a year and a half ago when, I'd been in this online business for 3 years and I hadn't experienced much success and my growth was stagnating. And I realized I just got to show up more all the time. I've got to be there and I've got to be there all the time. And the shift was that was the shift when I decided, right, this is my business, this is my lifeline, this is what I'm doing, and I need to be consistent, I need to be disciplined. I'm not going to follow my mood. Oh, today I don't feel like posting, or today I don't feel like. I'm just going to show up regardless, messy, whatever. But I'm just, and that was the shift. But what's interesting is the more I show up, the more creative I become, and the easier it becomes to show up. But it was a gradual process. When I started 3 years ago, I mean, I don't even remember who I was 3 years ago, but I certainly wasn't who I am today. So there's been such a massive shift in my personality and the way I live my life, and it just all folded in, quite naturally.
Brilliant. So tell us a bit about your background then. So what's got you to where you are today?
That's a vast story. I feel like I've had a million lives. I grew up, I had a very privileged childhood, and I grew up in Africa, which was amazing. So most of my life was spent outdoors in the wild. That was really magical. Home life was slightly traumatic, whilst from the outside, it looked amazing, right? So I was this very privileged child where I had access to everything, great education, great houses. But within the family unit, it was quite difficult. There were, some unpleasant dynamics, lots of disagreement between my parents, violence, alcohol, that kind of stuff. And it was quite traumatic, actually. And so naturally, very earlier on, I wanted to break my chains and become very independent and step out of that environment. And so that led to a multiple lifetimes. So, I've been an art dealer for 10 years, and then I was an environmentalist and a humanitarian. I have 3 kids from 3 different dads. Like, I reinvented myself constantly. I was always looking for who I am. And so that came through changing partnerships, changing jobs, moving countries, going from France to living in England and now being in Portugal. It was lots of movement at all levels. And there were 2 massive shifts on my journey. The first one was in 2017, so 2 years before I had my last born, where I broke my foot. I had an accident and I broke my foot. And that was really the pivotal moment of change for me, because the reality is what happens is life stopped me, I got stopped. I couldn't walk anymore. I couldn't do the things that I was doing all the time to distract myself, going out, being the heart of the party. And then mostly I had to sit with myself at home. And that's something that I had never actually wanted to do. My whole life had been about running away from what was inside me. And so suddenly I had to do that. So that was the first. 2017 was a big shift. And that's when I realized something needs to change. I need to start walking in a different direction, because this direction, and there were lots of other little things. I'd split up with a boyfriend that I had at the time. There were lots of things coming together and made me realize I'm just not walking in the right direction.
How did that feel? Because do you remember what was going on in your head when you started to slow down and you were forced to?
Oh my God, it was a complete panic. So I'm someone that suffered from, when I was a child, I suffered from severe colitis, so gut issues. And, your gut is your second brain. And it was very much related to anxiety, but it was rare to see anxiety in such a young child, but that's really what it was. So I had a long history of anxiety and depression. So when 2017 happened, I really plunged into darkness. Like, it was, I couldn't believe what was happening to me, because everything that I thought was keeping me together fell apart. The boyfriend, I broke up. I couldn't go to work. I couldn't go out. I couldn't do all the things that I was doing all the time, which were things that I was mainly doing to numb the pain that I didn't want to look at. And then in 2022, I burnt out. I was working a lot. So I'd made some many radical changes between 2017 and 2022. Lots of change had occurred, and I'd met the father of my son, and I'd given birth to my third child at 41. So already there were lots of things that had changed between 2017 and 22 in the way I was living my life. But in 2022, I just burnt out. I just knew I don't want to live this life anymore. I don't want to be stuck behind a screen all day doing something that I don't love doing, being inside all the time. This is not the example that I want for my child. I don't want to be away from my child. And so that was the second other crucial moment. And that was really the one where I thought either something changes now or this is the end, because I can't imagine living the rest of my life like that. That's not what I came here for. I'm pretty sure I came here for something much bigger.
Wow. I could resonate to a lot of that, actually. Timings, and even going back to a child having the gut issues and the colitis and the anxiety that went with that, and lots of symptoms of always biting my fingers down to nothing, and lots of other symptoms and separation anxiety from my mum at the school gate, and all these things. I don't know if there's a correlation between that and then like what happened to us in our adult lives, where we become very focused and dependent on these external things that keep us busy. But then when
That's
we're
it.
in a position,
Everything is based on distraction, really. And
yeah,
so we're not taught, particularly at a young age, we're not taught to listen to our body. We're not taught to tune in with our intuition. You have to
we
be,
don't have time. We don't have time. With next lesson, next lesson, next lesson.
yeah.
It's you feel like a big part of learning as a child that's missing potentially is those learning to be quite comfortable in like an environment where you're silent almost on your own, and
Yeah,
like
exactly.
just observing things and getting comfortable with reflecting it. The things that if you don't learn these things at a young age, and then like yourself, like a lot of people went through in lockdown, when just go and sit at home and just sit with your thoughts, but you can still have access to alcohol and drugs.
I know that was just crazy. Although I absolutely loved COVID.
Yeah.
For me, it was amazing. I was like, there's nobody in the street. It's amazing. The nature was crazy, it was
Yeah.
beautiful. And I thought it was the best time ever. But it also was a pivotal moment, because this is it. What you're talking about is like, whoa. So I'm just like, this is all ruled by my job, by the government, by all these things. Is this, is this what how I want to live? Is this what I'm left with? Surely I need to go out there and create something that has more purpose, more freedom. I want to be more in control of, my environment, my life, my well-being. So COVID obviously was really powerful for that. But it certainly for me was a great time, because I actually really needed this time of slowing down and isolation in order to find myself. In fact, my whole journey, particularly the last, I would say 5 years, it's been, a very solitary journey, but I needed it. And this is crazy, because this is coming from somebody which couldn't stand, as I was telling you in 2017, I couldn't stand being by myself, right? It was like, who is this woman? I really don't like her. And now I have to sit with her all day long. And that's
Yeah.
when I started changing things, falling in love with myself again, like doing things that would make me fall in love with myself again. But it's been a very solitary journey. I needed this isolation time. And
Wow.
now I love being on my own. Actually, I live a little bit like a bear in a cave. I'm quite a
Really?
recluse. I'm always at home. I'm with my son. I spend a lot of time in nature. I don't really like socializing too much in person. I'm very sensitive to people's physical energies. And also, I just love being with myself and my own thoughts. And that's such a testimony of the journey that I've gone through, because I actually couldn't stand being with myself and my own thoughts in 2017. And now I love it. It's always an opportunity for me to learn more about myself, or to expand my knowledge about something else, or to develop my creativity. Like being alone is for me the most powerful. And anyway, I never think that I'm alone anymore. My faith has been a big part of my journey. So I am not alone. I walk with God every day. And so that was also very powerful in my journey, is that realization that I wasn't alone. I was always divinely guided and always divinely protected. And there was...
When did that, your belief in your faith, when did that has that always been something that's been there, or was that something that is again?
Yeah, there was, I was always, into spirituality and all of that, but it became really powerful. And there was just really this kind of awakening 2.5 years ago when I was in Portugal, and things were really difficult at the start of my journey. And I was, I had a court case with the father of my son that just started. And it just felt like everything that I was trying to build was suddenly falling apart. And I always say that I met God when I was broken, in tears in my kitchen floor, where it was like, well, I got nobody, I've got no one, I need you. And that's when I realized that I actually always had God to look after me, but I just never turned to God. And from that moment, everything shifted. Everything shifted because my faith is really what carried me through this.
Does that feeling mean that even any doubts or all those other feelings that we get of regret, and you almost have that complete surrender moment where
Yeah.
actually that was all meant to be, and
All meant to
everything?
be, all
Okay.
meant to be. Sorry. It was the complete
No,
acceptance that I was exactly where I was meant to be in this moment in time, that I had been continuously shaped up to this moment, and that I actually had to let go and let God and continue being shaped, and accepting that things hadn't happened to me, they were happening for me. And that was a massive shift, where I turned to gratitude. Thank you for, doing lists of thank you. Thank you for this person hurting me, or thank you for giving the father of my son even for doing what he was doing. Just realizing that actually he probably didn't know how to love. That was his way of expressing love. And what it was teaching me about myself, how I was reacting. So it was super powerful. Yeah, it changed everything. And actually it's interesting, because you were asking me earlier at which point things changed in my business. And I think that's when things really changed in my business, where I completely surrendered and I put all my faith into the journey and into the process. If it doesn't work, if somebody doesn't like my post, if somebody hates under my post, but I don't care.
matter.
If something is happening that is not going my way, it's redirection, it's continuous redirection. And that enabled me to flow, and to flow much, much easier. And therefore life becomes so much more peaceful and soothing, because you're no longer trying to fight things.
No, I feel like there's a process, and there's a common thread between a lot of the people I speak to, in the, and maybe it's the thing that draws me to them, is that at some point there was this shift, and there's this moment where sometimes people are aware, like they realize that's the person that I want to be. However, the actions and the emotions and the way that they show up isn't in alignment with that person.
Yeah.
So then you're constantly getting this brick wall where this is frustrating, because now I'm even more frustrated and even more unhappy, because I know the person I want to be, but I don't understand why I can't have that, why I can't be that person. But it's because you've not taken that actual proper look in the mirror and
Mm-hmm.
identified behaviors that you're displaying that aren't in alignment with that person,
Yeah,
and you're
totally.
not willing to accept it and then do that work to make sure that you already act like the person, rather than hope to become that person one day magically.
Yeah, no, totally. Embodying the version of you that you want to become, and showing up
Mm.
as that person every day. And that's,
Hard.
people, yeah, it's super hard. And you don't change things from one day to another. It's all small, subtle changes day after day, things that, the way you speak to yourself when you wake up. For me, the power of prayer and gratitude has been huge. In the morning, I wake up and I pray and I say, thank you for all these amazing things in my life. And sometimes all these amazing things in my life may seem like nothing to someone, but it's like, thank you for the roof over my head. Thank you for the food that we're eating. Thank you for being here in Portugal and the sun shining, and then realigning with my vision. But it starts with the way you speak to yourself. It starts with what you do every day. For years, I woke up in the morning and the first thing I was doing was either having a joint, a cigarette and a coffee. That was like the first things I'm doing in the morning when I wake up. Now, when I wake up, I brush my teeth, I do oil pulling, I have a large glass of water, I go outside, all these small changes, changing my environment, my physical environment. That's really massively impacted me. Living by nature has been
Huge.
hugely healing, but also changing the people around me. Who am I surrounding myself with every day, and recognizing, am I trying to please someone here? Am I looking for validation? Who do I want to surround myself with? There's so many changes,
Wow.
and they're not changes that happen overnight, right? I just want to demystify that, as like, oh yeah, you can completely change in like, you can change, but it's a process, and you have
Yeah.
to be also gentle to yourself. You have to be gentle to yourself and accept that it's a process, and it's every little subtle change that you make every day that has a massive impact, because when they're all coming together, then they shape this new version of you.
Makes a lot of sense. And there was a moment last year I went to a day retreat up in Hanbury, and as part of that retreat, there was a meditation, and we were invited to. And I don't really like the whole goal setting thing, but this was cool what we did, because we were all invited to set ourselves one goal, and the goal wasn't allowed. It's not allowed to be something that's like within easily. It was called like an A goal. So set yourself a goal, and whatever that goal is, like that would be your dream life. And I identified one thing that I knew was my A goal, and I had no idea how I was going to get there, because to me it's like there would need to be some really significant changes for me to achieve
Yeah.
that life. But you get this gut feeling whether the next step you're making, or like you said, like, what am I doing this week or this month or this year to give myself that chance of making that change over time. And it was so true. If you could like identify what it is that you want long term, don't even worry about steps you need to get there, but just make
Exactly.
sure that what your next step is, it feels like it's in that direction.
Absolutely. I mean, the most important thing is to, what is your vision? What do you want to achieve? What's the highest version of you? What does that person look like? What is she doing every day? What does she think? What is she, how does she dress? What does she eat? What's the perfect vision of you? And just, it's not really, I mean, it is and it isn't your job to figure out how you're going to get there. Like, I don't know, if you want to be like a super millionaire and live in a mansion, like, it's not your job to figure out how you're going to get there. What your job is to take little steps every day in that direction, whilst never losing sight of that bigger vision. That's the glue that holds it all together, is to have that vision. And so many times I take a piece of paper and a pen, and I rewrite my goals, my vision. And I write it with precision, real precision, like sometimes down to what my bathroom is going to look like, my dream bathroom. But I write it with precision, and sometimes things shift. It's also, it doesn't always have to stay the same, exactly the same, because as you progress on your journey, that vision might slightly change as well. But it's all those little steps that you take every day that carry you forward. And it's not really your job to, you take a step and it feels like you're not getting anywhere, but then you take another one and you're a little bit closer. Like, I'm so much closer to where I wanted to be 3 years ago. So much closer. If I hadn't done all of these changes, if I hadn't taken action day after day, that first action step that I took, the very first one, the one where I said, no, I don't want to live this life anymore. I'm going to start an online business selling water ionizers. I see the vision. I have the vision. I'm going to invest in myself. If I hadn't taken that step, I wouldn't be here today. It pushed me so far out of my comfort zone, but that was the first step. And then from then on, it was like little steps day after
Makes sense.
day.
Talk to me about the water then.
The water, the water's amazing. Well,
Yeah.
water's life changing, because my whole holistic health journey started with food. I was obsessed with, eating organic food and local products. So when I was in Oxford, I had an allotment. I actually started my allotment during the lockdown, and I started growing all my food, and everything for me was about the food and, the toxins on the food and the pesticides. And I hadn't really considered water. I mean, I knew of the importance of water, but I actually hadn't reflected so much upon it, because actually it's not something we're taught to think about, which is crazy, because we are made out of water, right? Your brain's 86% water, your skin 64% water. Like, it is the most preeminent element within you. So once you start to understand that, actually, you know what, I am water, the quality of the water that you're drinking suddenly becomes really important. Like, I need access to clean and healthy water. And all these toxins that I'm exposed to, through tap water, through bottled water, reflect in my body. So when I came across Enagic, and when I came across the water, it made so much sense. And I'm a mother. I wanted my child to have access to the cleanest and healthiest water, because I just knew it was the right thing to do. And the minute I started drinking it, and the minute we had the machine in our home, it changed everything. For me, everything. All the symptoms of anxiety and depression, which I'm talking to you about, completely vanished. I was sharing yesterday, I had a burnout in 2022, and I was covered here with psoriasis and eczema. It was going down. It was really itchy. It was awful. Completely gone. Completely gone. Within 1 week of drinking the water, that was completely gone. My energy levels, my focus. And my little boy is almost 7, and he's seen a doctor once at birth, and he's seen a doctor when he fell at nursery. So nothing related to disease or chronic illness or anything like that. Like, we're in the bed, and he's strong. Like, the guy's like a bull, he's like, he's
Mountain.
but it's a combination, right? And that's why it's holistic. But the water is really the foundation of it. The water is really the foundation of it. And then I knew I was making this investment for 25 years minimum. So I knew I was making this investment for life. That was going to give me access to free, clean, and healthy water for life. But not does it just do that. It replaces all the toxic chemicals in my home. So I was very obsessed with cutting out the toxins in my home and no longer having contact with dangerous chemicals, laundry powder, cleaning products, and all of that. And suddenly all of that, disappeared from my life. And then cleaning my food, right? Cleaning my food, being able to clean my fruits, my vegetables, and no longer being in contact with pesticides, herbicides, glyphosate, all these like really toxic things. And then so that's kind of like the physical aspect of it. And then the business that comes along with it, being able to share this product with people all around the world. Sorry. Are you
These
back
things
there?
happen.
Sorry, I've
I'm
lost.
all good.
I'm trying to find you again. Oh, there you are. Sorry. Being able to share this water with people all around the world, being able to share this water with people, watching them heal, helping them heal, is super powerful. And then comes the business opportunity, and watching people free themselves from whatever life they're living that they're not happy with, and being able to create something so much more powerful and impactful and empowering is incredible. And just being part of this global community of conscious entrepreneurs, women, for me, it was also super powerful on my journey. We were talking about sharing your truth and meeting people that, are in alignment with who you are and your message. Well, I'm part of this global team of conscious entrepreneurs, mainly women. We know we are homeschoolers, we're homesteaders, we're free birthers, we're holistic health therapists. Like, we kind of all have the same mindset, the same vision about the world. We want to create something better for our children. And so it's so empowering that there is all of us. And during the hardest time on my journey, the support of this group has been life-changing, because when I wasn't feeling motivated to show up and do what I needed to do in order to take my business to the place where I wanted to take, there were people out there reminding me what I needed to do and to keep showing up for myself. And that's where I'm saying that how important your environment is. Who are the people you're taking your advice from? Who are the people in your life? Are they pushing you to become this better version of yourself? Are they telling you, no, don't do that, it's too risky? What are you listening to? Who are you listening to? I choose to listen to people who are way ahead of where I am already, because that inspires me, that keeps me motivated. Like, look what she's done, I can do that too. People who are living healthy lives, people who live life in alignment with my own values, like, as I say, homeschoolers, people, who realize the importance about staying with our children and home educating our children as opposed to handing them over to the system. It's so powerful. So powerful to be part of a global community of people who are like-minded and also sailing in the same direction. It's a real movement. It's a force, It's so much better than trying to move by yourself.
When's the last time? Do you ever have moments where you forget that support's there and
No,
it's always there with
it's
you?
always there. It's 24-hour support. It's the friendship that I've created. It's the, my online business and the connections that I've made. It's always there. It's incredible. It's a real life force. Now, the water's a life force in itself because it's alive and it really fuels your body in such a different way, deep cellular hydration. So when I'm telling you that you feel completely transformed when you start drinking this water, you really do, because you have this life force energy carrying you. But then, you also have this life force energy which comes from the community, from the movement of these people. It's incredible. And then what I'm building day to day and the connections that I'm making with people out there on social media. I've made some incredible friendships, people that I haven't even met in real life, but it's just magical for that.
Yeah. And you're a product of the product because you've got this consistent energy that is, it's contagious.
Yeah. I was saying this yesterday. I probably wouldn't be where I am today if I wasn't drinking this water, because to be an entrepreneur, and you probably know that, it requires a lot of self-discipline. It requires a lot of self-motivation, of focus on the vision, and reminding yourself why you're showing up every day, reminding yourself of that vision every day. And I was somebody that was constantly distracted. I was always tired. I was always struggling to wake up in the morning. I wasn't sleeping well. So there was loads of external factors, physiological factors that were disrupting my road to success, right? There was excuses that I was making, or, oh, I'm a bit tired, or I feel sad today. Well, all of that is gone. And I show up every day with the same motivation and the same passion and the same energy and the same focus and the same discipline. And I know that's because my body is fueled with, living water. I am living water. So I'm flowing naturally.
You can see it. And even the interactions we've had where you're asking me, oh, what questions do we might we answer? Is like, I can tell, even though it's just an appointment for a conversation online, you're still wanting to turn up as the best version of yourself and prep. You might have had like half an hour, you're like, I'm going to prepare a little bit and think about those questions whilst I'm also preparing for this other call. And it's like you're multitasking, but it's not a hindrance because of the way you've looked after yourself and you've
Oh,
given
no, it's
yourself
not hindering at
the
all.
right level of energy.
No, it's not hindering at all. I love it. I wake up every day with, as I say, I wake up every day passionate about what I'm doing and passionate about what I'm building and focused. I think something about resilience here is that you've got to have this unwavering faith in yourself, and you have to build this mindset and this discipline that keeps you going. And every day I wake up inspired by the life that I'm creating. There hasn't been a single day in the last 3 years where I've doubted what I was doing. Even, trust me, when things weren't looking good, I was still waking up in the morning with the same determination, with the same force. I just knew this, and I love it.
You can tell. There's a few things that really resonate, and there's a few things that really are so similar to some of the other podcasts I've had, where it's that discipline, and I can feel it myself. Where there's been a few times where I've really not wanted to podcast because unless you're going to show up as a good version of yourself and give the right level of energy,
Mm.
there have been times where I've been tempted to cancel or postpone, but I don't like to do that. So I'll turn up, and if I feel like my energy's low, then might I might rely more on some questions, or I might let the guest talk more. But I think it's so important to not give yourself those excuses, even sometimes when it's so tempting. And the other thing which I loved, which you said, was similar to a guy called Simon Hall that I had on. I've had him on twice now because we've connected and we get on so well. But something he said to me which really hit home was when I asked him what inspired him the most, and he said it was the version of himself that he's yet to become.
Yeah.
And it feels with yourself that however content you feel and however much faith you've got in who you are now, I can almost sense as well you're excited to find out who you're going to be tomorrow and who you're going to be next week, and
Yeah.
because this journey.
And also that it builds my self-confidence and my sense of self-love and self-worth every day, because whenever I'm showing up when I don't want to show up, whenever I'm doing something which I wouldn't have done in the past or found an excuse, or which feels a little bit difficult and stepping out of my comfort zone, once I've done it, I feel so empowered. I feel so strong. I'm like, wow, do you know what? I've done it. And that just feeds in this, my self-confidence, my feeling of self-worth, and gives me even more energy to keep doing it, because I'm like, whoa, I can do it. You know,
Mhm.
every little success, every little hard step that you take and that you overcome, just keeps taking you to that highest version of yourself. So,
Uh,
um, I just have
so
to.
what has your journey taught you about resilience?
Hey, you've got to have faith in yourself. You've got to believe in yourself, and you've got to stay grounded in the vision. I think we've covered that, both of those. It's super important to stay grounded in the vision. It's super important to keep showing up as the best version of yourself every day. And it's important to trust the process and to surrender to the process. Like, you can't try and control everything all the time. Life, and it happens. And as I said earlier, everything is always shaping you. Stop trying to control everything. Stop trying to control all the outcomes. Just keep showing up. Uh,
Mm. That control thing is it's the starting point and it's the end point. It's like if you try and control anything, and for me it's controlling how I react to things or controlling my emotions, and then it's also controlling like that resistance that you have to
mhm.
those things.
Mm,
So there's lots of dimensions to what we try and control, and sometimes we might think, but I'm not in control of that external thing, so I'm cool. But actually,
exactly.
you're still trying to control how you feel, and you're trying to control your reactions and your emotions and all these things. But that is, for me, that's like I haven't quite mastered that,
That's
but it
the
feels
only
like
thing you're in
yourself.
control of. That's the only thing
Yeah, it feels
you're
like
in control of.
yourself. You're like, no, I'm letting go of all of that.
Yeah.
I'm in control of nothing really. So why worry about it?
Exactly. And that has been life changing for me. I mean, as I told you, I was very anxious. I had lots of depressive episodes, but I was also a very angry and reactive person, like shouting and getting myself involved in arguments. It was so chaotic at every level. Also because I've got quite a fiery personality. So, and I was an activist for 15 years, yeah, let's go fight, until I realized that actually, and that's why I wanted to leave humanitarian environmentalism, because I realized the biggest service I'm going to do to the world, to myself and to others, is to change me, right? Is to change how I react to things, how I let those external things affecting me. Because in reality, as you said, you can't change things outside of you. You can't change the things that people say, the things that people do, the way the world is. But what you can control is where you put your focus on, where you put your attention on, and how you're going to react to those things, whether you're going to let them affect you or not. I wake up in the morning. There was, during a really challenging period of my life, a year and a half ago, I'd I'd built this, my resilience was so powerful. I'd wake up in the morning and I'd open the door and I'd look at the sky and I was going like, go on then, bring it on. I'm ready for it. Nothing is going to shake me. Nothing is going to move me, no matter what you throw at me today. And I found that through faith, breathing, going back to breath work as well, has been a big part of learning how to let go of those emotions. And then once you understand that, everything passes, My journey started with, I don't know if you've heard of Vipassana meditation. It's one of the oldest it is the oldest form of meditation that's sort of preserved in its pristine condition. So I did several Vipassana courses, and I learned that everything passes, happiness passes, sadness passes. It's just flowing through you. So instead of even now, I don't know if I should use the word struggle, but I don't react like I'm not ecstatic anymore. I don't have these really highs and these really lows anymore.
Makes sense.
And I think this is what you kind of need to find, is this balance, rather than just, oh, this happened to me, or I'm feeling amazing and this is great and blah, 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 blah. And then, and just to
No,
just stop being regulated by these emotions with come in and come out. And the only way that you start recognizing these emotions and the patterns of reactions that you create when they come is by sitting down and bringing it back down to the breath.
breath.
Because once you start to observe your breath, you start to realize that it's dysregulated, like I'm not breathing properly. And then you feel the intensity of the emotions going through you. Like, if you're really happy, you might be breathing really quickly, or really sad, like everything grows through the breath. So grounding and doing lots of breath work has been really powerful.
Same for, same for me. And it's funny, all the stuff I've learned through this process, with the breath work being a significant thing that I have learned, but other things as well. Like I went to the Wellness Way Festival last year, or earlier in the year, sorry. And I learned lots of different practices there, but I learned a lot around the EFT, the emotional freedom technique, like the
Mhm.
tapping.
Yeah.
So now I find myself, when I'm sat in my car and I might come to a bit of traffic or someone might cut me up, then I get that reaction. I'm like, why's that happen? But then I'll take a deep breath in and I'll do like 4 or 5 really slow exhales. But at the same time, I'm just kind of like do a tiny little tap or whatever. And it's like, it just passes through. And I
Just
find,
Yeah, it passes through. And I think what's really powerful is once you start not reacting to all these emotions, life flows completely differently, because you are energy, right? So
um,
if you're like this bowl of tension and you've got these really, high energies and you're reacting to them, you create, friction in the field, and the more you learn how to control those emotions, the more life flows easily for you, because you're not in conflict all the time or not in reaction all the time. So things start flowing. I actually, I know this sounds completely crazy. Like I've said this to people before, but I've literally experienced what I call miracles within minutes, within seconds of not reacting as my old self, and just, coming down to the breath, coming back to my vision, grounding and trusting the process. And that moment of surrender instantly attracted what I wanted, instantly, like crazy. Whereas it's been money, it's been houses, that literally within a couple of hours or 24 hours, exactly what I wanted, what I needed appeared, even though the day before or a couple of hours before it looked like it wasn't going to happen. But because I just didn't react, and because I surrendered to the process, and I was like, okay, I'm going to be sad, not going to be angry, not going to be this. I'm in acceptance. Boom. I got exactly what I wanted. I mean,
Yeah.
even
It
I'm
makes it
sometimes I'm like, wow, this is so powerful. What this has shown me.
where it's like, wow, where's that come from? And you wouldn't believe it sometimes. And I've got a certain friend called Harry who I connected with. He's been on the podcast, and we call each other like spirit brothers, because at the exact moment he's thinking of me or watching a podcast or something, and there's one example where I sent him through an exact second to an exact minute of a podcast to say, oh, this would be something I feel you would benefit from. And no joke, he screenshotted his phone. He was listening to the same podcast at the same time, the same minute.
Yeah, it's beautiful.
That level of synchronicity, and it has happened time and time again. And it's because we're so similar in the way that we feel and we think and we support each
We're
other and
connected.
know each other. It's really we've not grown up together, but we've got this beautiful friendship that's built on just us, like not being that macho, typical old school bloke that we both used to be. But now, because we live in this other way, it's like that happens for us. It's mad.
It's mad, and it's really powerful, because that's when you realize that there is a force,
Absolutely.
there is a higher power, there is a higher force, and that our mission here on earth is to reclaim that power which is constantly taken away from us, which is why it was important for me not to put my son in the public school system, and I wanted to homeschooling, and that power is taken away from us. And especially with women, it actually even is taken away from us at birth, and it's all about reclaiming that sovereignty, that power that we have. We are so powerful. Sorry.
It's not a problem. Honestly, it's not a problem. It's been perfect. Recording, it's been no problem.
It has been It's been super powerful. And I think that's really what our mission is here. And that what is my mission is to help people, help women reconnect with this magic that we all have within us. I don't have any superpowers. I'm not more special than you or more special than anyone. I've just learned to use my energy in a different way. And by using my energy in a different way, I'm able to attract the things that I want, because it's all based on your frequency, your vibration. Then also that's why the water is so important, because water carries a frequency, right? It's alive. So when you're drinking dead and poisoned water, your internal waters aren't charged. So it's even more difficult to tune into that frequency. And definitely for me, the water for that has been massively life-changing. Is I've reconnected with this frequency, with this power within me. But we're all magical. The mind is super powerful, but we're just not taught how to use it. We're programmed to, react and live a certain way because it's profitable for the is out there, and that most people are trapped in, still a bit trapped in it as well. I have to live with it.
Hard to completely remove yourself from society completely, I'd imagine, but it sounds to me like you're doing everything you can to live the life that you believe in, which I respect and
Yeah,
admire.
totally.
It feels like I'm on this similar path where, because I've recently started this sauna business by the beach, so I'm spending a lot more time down at the sauna now. But you're watching people take those moments out and reconnect with the breath and put themselves in the cold water and then into the sauna, and they're detoxifying, they're connecting with nature. And for me, like, that is as close as I can get at the moment to stepping into the life and the environment that I want to be part of. And then from that, I'm now connecting with people that are coming down and using the facilities. And I think it's apparent people that up until that point haven't taken any time out of their day to reconnect with nature and reconnect with their breath. It's like, it's life changing.
Yeah, no,
So,
absolutely.
to finish, what advice would you have to people that might be listening to this and they're interested? They're like, well, I live this very busy life, but it's so important. I couldn't possibly sacrifice 5 minutes out of my day to go and spend some time in a field or down by the sea. not realizing that they're missing a trick. Like, what advice would you have to someone that's maybe feels stuck, but is hearing like the power of what you're talking about, and they're interested? What's their first step that they could take?
The first step that they can take if they feel stuck is to, I would say, pause. Just pause for a second. Pause for a second, and what's the vision? How do you want to live your life? Think about it. Like, do you want to live your life like this, or do you want to create something different? The first thing you need to do is you need to stop, and you need to either come to the realization that you're living completely out of alignment, or that actually, no, this suits me. I'm happy like this. So the first thing I would say is just pause for a second. And we're not, again, we're not taught to pause, right? We're constantly in this vroom, vroom hamster wheel from one thing to another. And that's why nature, the connection with nature is so important, because we are nature, right? So for example, now it's winter, right? It's winter and we're supposed to be slowing down. Nature is slowing down. But somehow when I was living in the UK, I'm so glad not to be in there I haven't been there for the last 3, the rush to Christmas, the Halloween, the Christmas, it feels even more pressure, the social commitments. So when at a time when nature's slowing down and everything, the days are shorter, you're supposed to sleep more, you're supposed to rest, and you feel it within your body. Your body's asking about it, and somehow we're just ignoring it, and we're pushing ourselves. I think it's okay to say, stop. I just need to step out for a second. Whether it's 5 minutes, 1 hour, 1 week, whatever. I had to go on sick leave in 2022 when I burnt out. I had to and that was not something that I wanted to do, because that was not parts of my ethics as a professional. Everything was based on performance and how well I was performing. So to kind of say, do you know what? I need to stop here, and I need to really think about where I'm at, tune in with my body, and reflect on where it is that I want to go. That's the first thing. And then from there, you take aligned action, right? So if you're not happy with the life that you're living and you want to create something different, what small action step? Because it doesn't have to be big, right? I'm not saying to everyone, buy a water ionizer, pack your bags and go to Bali. That was my journey. But it doesn't have to be everybody's journey. Everybody's journey looks different. I need radical change. That was something that I needed. But sometimes small changes are more than enough, right? What small step can you take? Is it a habit that you're going to change in your, in your daily life? Is it that you're going to sign up for an art class because you're passionate about art and you're going to allow yourself more time to do what you love? Is it going to be investing in a side business and trying to create something different? But you can't do any of these things if you haven't slowed down, and if you haven't assessed where it is that you want to go, and you haven't tuned in with your body. How do I feel? Because the body's always the messenger, right? So the anxiety, the depression, the skin issues, all of this is the body that's screaming, I'm not in alignment, right? I always say to people, and my first mentor told me that if your depression goes away when you're on holiday, you don't have depression, you've got a shitty life. Yeah. And that is so true, right? So I was depressed all year. Then I'd book a fancy holiday in Greece or in Cyprus, and I was great for 10 days. Life was amazing. Come back depressed again for the next holiday. Didn't want
It's
to live
funny. I remember when
like that.
when we'd go on holiday, I'd always be really sociable and make lots of friends and be a lot more outgoing. And I could never quite understand why that was, but it does. It makes a lot of sense that the pressure had gone, and because of the heat and the time you're outside naturally and in and out the water, that it showed to me that I wasn't probably depressed. It's that there were certain things I was doing in my life back
Yeah.
in my day-to-day grind that just weren't in alignment.
And that's why nature for me has played this huge part in my healing. So it started when I was in Oxford and I had my allotment during COVID. I was on what was this called? You know, when you were working you weren't working, but you were getting paid 80% of your salary. What did they call that scheme? Anyway, so that at the time I was working for Oxfam, and so I was on that scheme. So I started the allotment, and I started going to the allotment every day as if I was going to work. Right.
Nice.
So I started my days at 9 o'clock in the morning, barefoot in the garden, and reconnecting with nature, with the seasons. And I started feeling so much better. And
Mm.
here where I live, it's a
Prove.
pardon?
I imagine your sleep was the first thing you noticed at that period when you're outside and early in the morning, and you're setting the circadian rhythm for the day.
Yeah.
Like the first thing
Yeah.
is the sleep.
We're not meant to be living these disconnected lives indoors all the time in front of screens. We're meant to be outside. We're meant to be getting sunlight, sunshine, rain. We're meant to have our feet in the sand, our feet in the mud. And we're completely disconnected from it. Completely disconnected from it. And for me, that's been, even now, today, if I'm feeling, not 100%, I'll just go out to the forest. I'll just go out to the ocean. When I was having some really tough times and I was feeling like nothing was working out for me, and I had these spiraling thoughts, I would just go to the beach. And then I was like, wow, look at this life I'm creating. It's magnificent. The world is beautiful. God is amazing. Nature's amazing. Like I was suddenly recharged,
Lifted.
just recharged. But we're not connected. We live in cities with traffic jam, with artificial lights, in front of screens all the time, dictated by, Halloween, Christmas, Easter, Valentine's, you go name it. We're never told to slow down, never told to tune in with our bodies. And we're being completely disconnected from the natural cycle of life and of nature. And so, obviously we become sick, we become depressed, we suffer from all these things. And it's the recognition that actually it doesn't work. It doesn't work. And for me, I just couldn't continue living like this. I had to change everything. And I knew I didn't want my child to be living in that life. And I wanted him to feel free and like he could create anything. I wanted him to be in tune with nature, learn how to listen to his body. I think that was the most important, was setting the example for him. And even for my older ones who were brought up completely differently, because they were brought up, as I was going through all of this. And so they were, through the school system and everything, university, and they're much older. But even for now, I want to be an inspiration for them that you can change, you can choose to do things differently. And that
Because we're always learning. We're always learning. We're always inspired by small things that people do. So for you to be doing what you're doing now, everyone around you will be noticing what you're doing and taking some kind of inspiration or some kind of lesson, and it encourages others then to find their own version of what you've done.
Yeah. And that changing, actually, we see change as something, of course, change is scary, right? Because it takes you out of your comfort zone. But what's more scary to me is staying exactly the same person and not expanding and not trying different things, not learning new things. We're meant to change. We're meant to evolve. Like I can see, like I'm unrecognizable to the person that I was 10 years ago, 5 years ago, 3 years ago, even to who I was yesterday. And that's amazing. People say, oh, you've changed. Yeah, I have, but you haven't.
It's funny, and I feel like the scary thing, like you were touching on then. I know, and I sent you through the list of questions that I prepared just in case I run out of things to say or we lost our direction. But for me, to read a series of questions, that's the easy option. The harder version is to not look at the questions and just have a conversation and rely on the fact that it will just go wherever it goes. And for me, I like choosing the harder option because I know I'm going to get more reward from it. And for me, there's more value in those conversations as well, because it's
Mhm.
not, oh well we're going down an interesting path there, but let's stop because I've got this next question now, and it's
Cool.
it's it's too structured for me. So for me, I love just these kind of conversations because I've got no idea what we've talked about, but it feels like we've
Yeah.
covered a hell of a lot of interesting topics.
Yeah, I think it's much better to just flow, right? We're flowing. Again, it's water. Water flows, it's energy. You just let go of it and you just flow naturally.
So,
And it's so much more powerful, so much more powerful.
well, thank you for your time this
No,
morning.
thank you. Thank you
Been
for
just
inviting
for an
me.
hour.
I enjoyed it.
Absolutely perfect. No, I've really, really enjoyed speaking to you and feel like I've taken a hell of a lot of value from it as well, and inspiration and little things maybe where you're talking, and it invites me to look inwards at things I'm doing, behaviors I'm doing that aren't in alignment, and things I can put in place. So if that's the way it's impacted me, then I've got no doubt it's anyone that listens to it
Yeah.
is going to feel the same. So thank you so much.
No, thank you so much, Ollie.